Well, after a 6-hour flight and what ended up being about 12 hours of travel, we made it to London. There's the double-decker bus. There's our hotel, the Millennium Bailey Hotel. We are on the 5th floor with a great view looking right down over here to the Gloucester Road tube station. Couldn't be more convenient. Let's begin our day. After a walk down Gloucester Road, this is Kensington Gardens, and that's Kensington Palace where Princess Di used to live. Still in the park. That looks like the back of Royal Albert Hall. Looks to be a mosaic, and this is the Albert Memorial in Kensington Gardens. Just had a little lunch outside of the Natural History Museum. And we're going to head on in right now and check this place out. This place is huge. Look at the size of this whale. Are you kidding me? It's like a cruise ship. There's the famous Harrods department store. Oh, she wants to go shopping.
Papa, what do you want?
Christmas in September.
top of a double-decker bus, taking a ride from Harwich to Piccadilly Circus.
We're going to Chinatown.
Old Bond Street, Royal Academy.
We just had some Chinese food in Chinatown. Michelle made a friend.
So this is Piccadilly Circus. It's the Times Square of London, and we're just kind of watching people and pigeons and all sorts of traffic. And right behind us is the statue of Eros.
So this is Lord Nelson on top of Nelson's Column here in Trafalgar Square with the giant lions. And that's St. Martin's in the Field Church, which we're going to get to at another time. That's the National Gallery with some art. I can't believe we've done all this on our first day here. How much we've done today. Michelle's really missing her cats. She's having some cat issues. So she climbed up the statue here in Trafalgar Square. Hey, Shell. She's hopping on all the lions. And we just realized that behind us over there, take a look over there behind you. It was our first view of Big Ben and Parliament. So this is the view from our room here at the Millennium Bailey Hotel. Looks right down on the Gloucester Road tube station, which we became very familiar with today. Just took a ride down to the food store, the Whole Foods, a couple of stops down, and we're really getting the hang of the buses and the tube. And Gloucester Road, which is right down there, goes all the way down to Kensington Gardens, which was the first thing that we did when we checked in this morning. And we've been walking and busing and tubing ever since. All sorts of stores and restaurants down there, a lot of hustle and bustle, and we've got some soundproof glass, so we can't hear anything down there. That's it for today. Day one in the books. We are going to hit the hay and start strong again in the morning. Shell, what time is it? Oh, it's 10:05. Thanks, Ben. This is the London Eye, the Millennium Wheel. It doesn't look like it's moving, but it goes around once every half an hour. And that's we're on our way right now into one of those pods to see what we can see. We're on the Eye, and that is the Millennium Bridge. It takes us, it's at 135 meters in the air, and it takes a half hour to get around. There's Trafalgar Square, where we were yesterday. There's Buckingham Palace and the park, St. James Park, right in there.
It could be that over there.
And then this is all the Ministry of Defense building, right there in front of us, the green building with the courtyard.
Foreign Office. Jazz Park is there. But the Jazz Palace must be on the side. Maybe straight there from the trees.
Imagine that's one side of the square.
Yeah, it's nice and clear. Crazy eruption. Old tram.
Good flight. Steve's 2010. This is where we start on the Westminster Bridge for the Westminster Walk, of course with the views of Big Ben and Parliament behind us. And we're going to continue down Whitehall to Trafalgar Square where we were yesterday.
The attention to detail on this Gothic building of Parliament is incredible.
I think it's only one of the cars.
Directly across the street from Parliament, this is Westminster Abbey. And St. Margaret's Church right next to it, which we're going to go into right now. This is Westminster Abbey. This is called Dean's Yard, the area that we're standing in right now. This is 10 Downing Street, the black building there, where the Prime Minister lives. It's gated and protected by bobbies, and it's on Downing Street on the corner of Whitehall. And this street leads you right from Big Ben and Westminster Abbey right on down to Trafalgar Square where we were yesterday. A little further down Whitehall are the Horse Guards, who sit here all day. There's another one over there. Obviously a very popular photo stop.
I'll take a picture.
That's the backside of 10 Downing. In this huge courtyard, which we saw very well from the Millennium Wheel, And as you can see, 10 Downing Street continues to be very well protected with machine guns. Kind of hopped on a tour here. And then right across the street over here is the entrance to St. James Park.
Yeah, they are pretty big actually.
Just made a little picnic in the park. We found a nice little restaurant right in St. James Park, and we're just eating and enjoying the view.
Must be the tour guide.
That is funny.
Don't touch it, don't. Oh, Mom.
That's very funny.
Mom.
Coming through.
Look at that, Lucy.
What are you doing?
Mom, watch her.
Lovely and white, isn't it?
When I leave, get out of
Just on the other side of St. James Park, you run into Buckingham Palace, and with the flag flying on the top, you know that the Queen is in town. And they're telling us we're very, very lucky to have the kind of weather that we've experienced so far here in September. So we're not going in the palace today, but figured I would get a picture while the weather's gorgeous. Down these steps is the bunker of the Cabinet War Rooms. This is where Churchill would sit and be on the phone with the United States President. Within the Cabinet War Rooms, they put together this very nice museum of Winston Churchill's life. And we're going to head back to the Cabinet War Rooms. This is the door from 10 Downing Street that he walked through as Prime Minister. Down this hallway are the sleeping quarters of all of the different people, the commanders and assistants. And this is Churchill's wife's sleeping quarters. This is one of the others. This is the conference room that the Chief of Staff sat in
on the wall.
They approached, flying towards the city, even the guns in the immediate vicinity of Broadcasting House fire. You see their patches quite plainly against the background of the dark houses, the green
Gas mask on the table in case they needed it. Map room annex where they plotted the Allied forces movement. Very narrow rooms in here. And this is the map room where they charted where the movement was during the war. This is the Prime Minister's bedroom, where Churchill only stayed 3 nights, but he used to broadcast from his desk there. It's right next to the map room, but he had a big map of his own in his office. Place is massive.
So we just left what's called Evensong or Evensong here in Westminster Abbey, which was a pretty incredible service and a pretty incredible church. So we just got off a double-decker bus and we're looking for somewhere to eat, and this is called St. Christopher Place, and every one of these pubs are just hopping. It's Friday, just after 6 o'clock, and it's just hopping with people taking in happy hour. Just took a bus from Marble Arch, where we went to a great Italian restaurant, and took the bus back to Piccadilly Circus. And this is definitely the time of day that you want to be in Piccadilly Circus. It's packed, the lights are bright, and it seems like there's more buses running in the evening and here at night. It's now just after 7:30, and the streets are all packed. This is very cool. So it's Saturday morning, and we just took an hour-and-a-half train ride from Paddington Station to the beautiful city of Bath, where we are right now. This is the Bath Abbey, and right behind us are the 2,000-year-old Roman Baths, which is a bath and worship complex, and we're just starting the tour. These are original stones excavated from the Roman temple that stood here 2,000 years ago. All the antiquities from the Roman times, including a grinding stone and bones from some of the animals they ate.
And then they clean their knives and spoons. Aquacillus means bathhouse. And this is a cremation bowl where bones are stored. And the cremation box where the remains were stored. This is a tiny piece of land with curses written on it, messages to the goddesses that people wrote on and threw into the springs. This is the original courtyard of the Roman temple, or what remains of it now. Obviously, it used to be open air. It's now closed off as a museum. This is some really early engineering, some Roman engineering, where they made this drain from the sacred spring, and the excess water overflowed and runs into the river. And finally, the museum leads us into the Great Bath, which we were looking down onto before. So there's a furnace room in there, and in here this was all heated up, and the floors were all tiled with mosaics, and people would sit in here and get their spa. All of these rooms connect pretty well, and this is one of the heating rooms where slaves would be down there and cleaning the fire, and this actually shows that the flue is over here and keeping it warm, and then it just flows from here into the different baths surrounding the Great Bath. And then this circular pool was filled with water from the sacred springs, and people would come in here and take a healing bath. There's a built-in seat along the edge. After the spa, here's another bath that you can go into, and the water all came in from the Great Bath. Men and women would bathe together originally. Then they separated it later on and had different baths all throughout the complex. And then through this arch right here, it takes you back into the Great Bath. This is the hot spring of the sacred goddess. Nobody swam in here, but this is where the water started and fed into the bath. And the water's bubbling, they said, not just because it's hot. It wasn't boiling, but there's gases in there, sort of like a fizzy drink that creates that bubbling. And from there it goes underneath the ground and feeds into the Great Bath. Whereas many of the other baths inside were spiritual, this one was more for recreation, and people would be jumping and swimming and splashing, they said. And others would just come for relaxation and just talk and drink wine and do business. Nobody has their feet in there right now, so I'm assuming you're not allowed to. I guess you can't put your feet in?
I don't think so.
I didn't see any signs. Go ahead. One toe. Finger. Where exactly did this come from?
Spring, so
Additional warm This street in Bath is actually on a bridge, the Pulteney Bridge, which is modeled after the Ponte Vecchio in Florence. And all of these shops right here are lining the bridge. We'll walk along that river later, but right now we're just kind of checking out the city of Bath. Some very posh shops, a ton of people. And we're making our way to the Royal Crescent.
Hi, I'm Tim from Bath and this is the Royal Crescent. It's a lovely day, it's a lovely place to live, it's a nice place to be.
So this is where the rich people live?
Yeah, this is where the richest people in Bath used to live. They used to come here and they used to come for a bit of bathing and drinking. Bath used to be an old gambling town. It's like Vegas for the UK.
Thanks a lot, man.
No worries, all right, have a good day.
Thanks.
Right. No worries.
So we've noticed these decorated lions all throughout the town of Bath, and Tim just told us that basically every couple of years the city of Bath puts out animals and different businesses decorate them. So we just walked down those stairs after a walk through the city. That's the bridge that we were walking on top of before with all the shops. Now we're getting ready to do the river walk. A pigeon just landed on Michelle's arm. Yesterday she was licked by one of the horse guard horses. They know that she's Peaches and Miss Kitty's mom.
It's been certainly beautiful.
Yeah, this has been a great day, and there's the bridge right behind us on the River Avon, and now we're going to try and find our way to the train station.
Love you.
Love you too. So we stumbled upon a concert in the park here. They're playing songs from Greece. Grease lightning, go Grease lightning. Grease lightning, go Grease lightning.
All the ones were silver.
These kids arguing with each other is hilarious. Doesn't matter where you're from. A whiny kid is a whiny kid. Although the English whiny kid sounds cute for the first 5 minutes.
Thanks very much.
Just took the tube and then a bus over by Camden Town and found this place called Stables Market. Don't even know how to describe this place. Eclectic, to say the least. All sorts of food and shops. This place was interesting, to say the least. And then down towards Camden, or within Camden, to Camden Town, gets equally exciting or interesting. Well, that was an interesting part of town, to say the least. We just took the tube to Leicester Square, found a place here called the Spaghetti House where we're going to have supper. It's about 7:30, and this is a funky little part of town too. Not nearly as funky as the other part, just kind of hopping. It's about a quarter mile away from Covent Garden. Found a nice little yogurt place that we're going to take Michelle to after this. Love this city. All right, so we just had a great dinner, and now Michelle found a fat-free frozen yogurt place. And this place is actually kind of fun. Back to our hotel, which is on the 5th floor. And what an amazing day this has been. Man alive, did we cover a lot of ground. Where are we? Down the hall here. Hello!
Come on in.
Hey, I figured I would videotape while it's as clean as it's going to be. Yes, we found a Whole Foods. And flat screen TV. And the bed, all made up. This is a really nice hotel. And of course the view, which we've seen. Just came back from the Gloucester Road tube station from Leicester Square, which is about 5 stops. And we'll do it all again tomorrow. So we just took a train from Paddington Station in London to Windsor to see Windsor Castle. We thought it was going to be a much longer ride than it was. We got here in about 45 minutes. And now we're just having a chocolate breakfast smoothie in this coffee shop. We're going to go check out the city of Windsor and the castle. It's like airport security to get into the castle. So this is Windsor Castle. About a 35-minute train ride from London, and they say that there's been a castle here for over 1,000 years. It's changed over the years, but the Queen still considers this her residence and spends most of her weekends here. This is through St. George's Gate into the quadrangle, and those are the stateroom apartments, the actual living quarters where the Queen stays and the royal family does their day-to-day living, and that's where we're going to go into later.
The tower itself, if you look up at the tower, you can see like the first layer of windows and then a line going around it. So that was the original height of the tower. But George IV, who was a very important king for Windsor Castle, he spent a lot of money buying china, buying silver gilt, buying furniture, making enhancements to the castle to make it more like a fairy tale castle.
This is the grand staircase on the way inside to the stateroom apartments. This is one of the few rooms that's actually still used, and it was one of the rooms destroyed by the fire in 1992, but they set up a long table from the beginning to the end and use it for state parties. This is where the knighting is done. It's the garter room. It's the Queen in her coronation dress in 1950 something, and this is our last stop in the staterooms. So this is the exterior of the state apartments where we just were, and this is the quadrangle, which we saw before, and right across the quadrangle are the private apartments. I think I mentioned earlier that this is what the Queen considers her major residence or her main home. She's in Scotland right now, and she's here on the weekends, and they open this up only in August and September for people to check out the state apartments. And we're in some sort of a courtyard right now. This is gigantic. It's just starting to drizzle. And there's a full 360 degrees back to the state apartments. And there is my princess. So the person who took the picture with Michelle and I, with the guard, was the guard's grandfather, and his mother was there as well. And the kid was smirking a little bit, but not exactly smiling. And when I said, your grandfather's a piece of work, he smiled, and his mother said, oh, I saw you smile. 2-hour shifts they stand there, they tell us. There are a lot of planes that cross the path of this castle. It's like Shea Stadium. I just learned from one of the wardens that there's a number of people who live in the castle besides the Queen. And when the Queen is not here, she's usually just here on the weekends, it's the governor who is the boss. And this is the governor's moat garden. The governor's in charge of the moat garden, and he lives in these twin towers over here. But there's wardens and footmen and a whole host of other people who live in the castle besides the Queen. And when the Queen's away, the governor's the boss, and when the Queen's in town, she is the boss. The Windsor Castle complex is huge. This is St. George's Chapel, which is closed on Sundays. And as much as they have a changing of the guard at 11 o'clock every day, they don't have them on Sundays. However, a bunch of guards just walked right past us as they did in, well, I guess unceremonious changing. And they walked right into the guard room, which is right over here. And this is the guard that guards the guard room. The streets surrounding the castle in Windsor are just so quaint, very similar to yesterday in Bath. And in the opposite direction, you've got this bridge, which has a beautiful view of the castle in the background, and it crosses the River Thames, which is filled with boats and swans. So got back to Paddington Station and had a bite to eat, and now we're on a bus going down Oxford Street, which is just crazy packed with people. An awesome bus ride. Took about a half an hour. Took us here to St. Paul's Cathedral, which we're not going to do today, but they have something called Sky Ride, where they close 10 kilometers worth of the city from Buckingham Palace all the way to, what did she say? Here to St. Paul's for sure, and you could basically ride your bike all throughout the city for free with no traffic and no cars. So now you can get from St. Paul's Cathedral across the Thames on what's called the Millennium Bridge, which they built in the year 2000. Takes you right across to the Tate Modern. And of course today all the bike riders are doing their thing. This is very cool. This is the Globe Theater replica, which was built in 1997. The original burnt down in 1612. And it's right on the other side of the Millennium Bridge, which we just crossed from St. Paul's Cathedral.
continue along Bankside, we found this cathedral called Southwark Cathedral, where they say Shakespeare had worshipped. The Globe Theatre was not far down the street.
So our walk along the Thames, quite a while actually, gave us our first view of the Tower of London over there across the Thames, which we're going to experience later in the trip, and our first up-close view of the Tower Bridge. It's not the London Bridge. The London Bridge is a little less impressive, and this one's fairly new, built only in 1834, but it's a huge, beautiful drawbridge, and it's become one of the iconic symbols of London. And now we're going to head to walk across it. This is actually a pretty cool building too we found over here. We're not sure what it is yet. It is very windy up here, but we're just kind of hanging out and people watching and enjoying this landmark of London and taking our time crossing it. After a confusing tube ride, had to make a couple of switches due to service changes. We found our way to Leicester Square and then to this little street here, which we found yesterday. And there's a place kind of like Qdoba.
Here we are in Leicester Square. Adam has found his gelato.
You just had Snog again. The Mexican restaurant was awesome. This is Leicester Square, and it's just packed with people. This is kind of the theater district. And then behind us, well, this is the square over here, and restaurants and theater and tons and tons and tons of people. And then over here is Piccadilly Circus, where we've been 100 times already. All right, twice. But we're going to go for a third time right now before heading to Big Ben Parliament. Well, it's a little windy, but we just had a beautiful walk along the embankment, along the Thames. There's County Hall and the London Eye. Seems like yesterday we were there. Seems like minutes ago we were on top of that, although it was a few days at this point. That's the Jubilee Bridge and one of the river boats on the Thames going through. I believe I referred to the Jubilee Bridge as the Millennium Bridge when we were on the Eye, but the Millennium Bridge was the bridge that we saw today and crossed over by St. Paul's Cathedral. There's Michelle calling Oneonta in the shadows of Big Ben. There's the half-hour chime at 8:30. Michelle just called her mom from that telephone booth right there. And right now we are going to hop on the subway, head back to the Millennium Bailey Hotel, and get ready for changing of the guard at Buckingham Palace tomorrow morning. This is the backside of Buckingham Palace. We just did the stateroom tour. They open the staterooms during August and September when the Queen is on holiday in Scotland. They don't let you take any pictures or video in there. Through one of the open windows you could see one of the chandeliers. The opulence in that room and the waste, if you think about it, is crazy. The money that is inside of this palace. We've seen quite a few of these birds. First saw one in St. James Park, and that bird too. A couple of unique birds. And this is in the gardens of Buckingham Palace, which is where we exited the tour on the back end here. This is Covent Garden Marketplace. Took a bus to Leicester Square from Victoria Station. It's an indoor-outdoor market, kind of like a Faneuil Hall in Boston. Street performers, shops, and a lot of food. There's not a lot going on in there right now, as it's the first bit of rain that we've seen on this whole trip. So this is where Covent Garden meets up with Russell Street, and I think the British Museum is nearby. So we're walking to the British Museum, and we just wanted to point out it's pretty funny how they always make sure that you're looking in the right direction, or the correct direction. And just in case, this one says, look both ways. British Museum, this way. So we found the British Museum, a couple of nice British young ladies. We asked them where it is, and they said, just keep going until you can't go no further. And they were right. We ran right into the British Museum, and it starts right out here with some South African plants, and we're going to go inside and check out all of the exhibits. This massive room is called the Great Court, and it's bigger than a football field with this circular reading room in front of it. And I think we're going to start our tour in the Egyptian wing. Probably the most famous artifact in the museum is the Rosetta Stone. It's from 196 BC. It was unearthed in 1799, and it's written in 3 different languages, which helped them essentially determine the hieroglyphics and how to translate the hieroglyphics. Just a ton of Egyptian relics in here, and another one of the more popular is this, because when Moses told the king of Egypt, let my people go, this is who he was talking to. This is the upper half of a statue of Ramesses made of granite from 1270 BC, 7 tons. Another statue of Ramesses and some sarcophagus lids from 1250 BC. It's amazing that they let you touch some of this stuff. It says that cats were kept as pets in ancient Egypt, but gods would also appear in the form of cats. And this is a bronze figure, they think, from 600 BC, which is supposed to be a sculpture, perhaps of what they thought were gods. I'm glad there are people there to show the size of this, because these are items from the mausoleum in Greece, which was a tomb, a 140-foot tall tomb from 300 BC that they say probably got destroyed. That's the frieze. Probably got destroyed during an earthquake around 1000 AD. Look at the size of this tomb from Athens.
This stuff is massive. This is a tomb excavated from the early Bronze Age that they found like 1952. Very well preserved. These are Babylonian boundary stones, and they were used as permanent records of land ownership and privileges such as tax exemptions. And they basically described sales and property exchange. What are you reading?
I was just reading about this.
What's it say?
It's just a letter.
I can't read it.
Yeah.
What the? Look at the Rosetta Stone and see if we can figure out what this says. This stuff is from Babylon and Mesopotamia. 3000 BC to 1500 BC. This is the part of a wall painting from 1400 BC, Egypt. This is the very popular mummy room back to Egypt. We're kind of skipping around a little bit. Look at how well preserved. This is a cat mummy and mummification of the animals in this section. So they're shutting down the British Museum now because I guess the subways are on strike?
Is the subway on strike?
How are we getting home? We'll figure it out. But this is again the Great Hall as we make our way out. That was nice of the guy to let us take a look at the mummies. I asked him about the cat mummy.
Yeah.
He said it's right behind us. It'll take a few minutes to get people out, so why don't you just go check it out? All right, let's go.
Bye.
Just took a bus to Oxford Circus, which is a circus. It's just packed with people. The shopping district we were here a few days ago. I had to get a shot of you actually eating a chocolate chip cookie from Ben's Cookies on Oxford Street. It's delicious. It's a good cookie. Just hopped the bus at Marble Arch and now we're going to head to Trafalgar Square. So we left the British Museum at about 4:30. And other than that little walk down Oxford Street, we've been on a bus. It's now 7 o'clock. We've been on a bus for 2.5 hours, and I got us in
Sussex Gardens
to a, well, not so great part of town. And now we're taking the bus back, but we have really gotten to see all that London has to offer. To Marble Arch again, where we started about an hour ago.
Marble Arch Station.
Those are the guys who bicycle people around town. A bicycle taxi.
This is the most unique busker we've ever seen. He's playing Singing in the Rain.
In a cone.
In a traffic cone.
In a traffic cone.
That is very, very funny.
Honestly, is that a traffic cone?
It's a traffic cone.
Oh my God.
He's playing Singing in the Rain. Just spoke to your mom.
Just talk to Mom and Dad.
Here in Leicester Square, making our way to Piccadilly Circus, where we're going to catch a bus because the tubes are on strike. You forgot what?
I forgot to tell Mom that the tubes are
Oh,
on
the tubes
strike.
are on strike? That's all right. We'll get home.
Tired?
Oh my God, 13 hours.
Ends up that the tube is in service today, but nobody's really on it. It's kind of a dead tube. What station is this? South Kensington? So we have one stop left until Gloucester Road. And yeah, we lucked out.
We're not minding the gap.
No, there's no mind the gap. They're supposed to tell us to mind the gap, and they're not. But yeah, so we have the Piccadilly service taking us to Gloucester Road, which is the next stop. And then tomorrow morning to the Tower of London. 13 hours of walking today. 13 hours of walking.
The next station is Gloucester Road. Change for the Circle Line.
Good night.
Good night.
Tuesday morning, and we found this place yesterday and just took what should have taken 10 minutes. But it was an hour-long tube ride for these lovely fat-free banana muffins. And the tube strike is in fact happening, and now it's going to be a little difficult on the bus. The bus was packed. It was packed with people. And now we're trying to find our way to Tower Hill on another bus to see the Tower of London. A bit of a change of plans. Getting a bus was nearly impossible, so we decided to walk and take Rick Steves' City Walk. So we started down the Strand, and we're going to continue down the Strand, but we just wanted to check out, this is called the Waterloo Bridge, with night sights in both directions, looking there at the Jubilee Bridge, and of course the House of Parliament and Big Ben. The opposite direction on the Thames shows, well, the city, but a lot of construction, and the city is really a 1 mile square where there's a lot of theater and there's a lot of business, and you can see the dome of St. Paul's Cathedral, which we're going to end up, I guess, in just a little while. Continuing with our walk along the Strand, just checked out the Somerset House down there, which is a huge former mansion right on the Thames River. A huge palace that some architect built for himself. This is the Royal Courts of Justice. It's the highest court in Britain. It's a neo-Gothic architecture, as you can see. And Paul McCartney was in there and settled his $50 million lawsuit with his gold-digging wife, Heather Mills. And all of the high-profile cases take place here.
No comment. After a long day in court, I like me a Cornish pasty and a sparkling mineral water.
St. Paul's Cathedral, and today is the 70th anniversary of the Blitz, where the Nazi Germans bombed London, and apparently the only thing that did not catch on fire was the cathedral. So they're having the veterans come back today for a ceremony and a service.
Tower of London, and behind me are the Queen's Jewels.
So I quickly took a picture of the jewels before told to stop. You're not allowed to take pictures of the crown jewels, so that's all I was able to get. This is the famed White Tower. This is the first of the towers built. It was built 900 years ago by William the Conqueror. It's now a 20-building complex, but this was the first tower that was built here at the Tower of London. These are the famous ravens of the White Tower, and they say that if the ravens ever leave the Tower of London, the White Tower will collapse. So I guess now they are caging them in to make sure that that doesn't happen. Inside the White Tower, these are the royal armories, including that here of King Henry VIII, who ruled from 1509 to 1549. More of Henry VIII's armor, which is intended, of course, to protect the crown jewels. This is the armor of King Edward VI, who was only 9 years old when he became king in 1547. And he reigned for only a few years. He died at the age of 15 because he was sick. Michelle, stand next to that for a second just to show the size differential between King Edward VI and, of course, King Henry VIII.
The Tower of London. He was with the king at the time, Richard II. So they turned and made their way towards the tower. Of course, you can't see these counties. People grow, they like the idea of the coffee, so thousands of them. This is getting out of hand. You know, 700 residents joining with their own groups. It was getting ridiculous. In fact, by the time
This is a castle. The spiral staircase. I feel like I'm on Ghost Hunters. This chopping block was located on the green, the execution site outside the White Tower. They moved it into the museum now. Anne Boleyn was the only Tower prisoner beheaded this way. 22 people have been executed here at the Tower of London.
Better to remain silent and be thought a fool than to open your mouth and remove all doubt, don't you think? Right. Welcome to Her Majesty's Royal Palace and Fortress, the Tower of London. Next hour or so, I'm going to be your guide. Together we're going to walk through the fortress. I'm going to point out the famous buildings and structures. You're going to look at them, and I'm going to bore you to death with their history. Got that?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Look.
This is our beef eater tour. This guy's pretty funny.
In order to be a yeoman warder, you must have a minimum of 22 years military service. Overwhelmingly, we are drawn from the army. We do have 4 from the Royal Air Force. No one talks to them. We also have 2 Royal Marines. They are instantly identifiable. They're usually holding hands. You won't see them though, they lurk in the corners. Guy Fawkes was bound by his wrist and ankles to 2 spindles. These were set in the rack, and by means of a ratchet mechanism in the middle, the spindles turned in opposite directions, so he began to stretch. Now an osteopath would charge you a fortune for that. On our rack you could stretch a man nearly 4 inches, but at the 3-inch point any therapeutic value was lost. Joints got pulled apart. Now your joints are held together with ligament and tendon. These are stronger than bone. When your joints get pulled apart, it is in fact your bones that break. Not cleanly. They come away in a flake fracture. Covers a lot of surface area and nerve ending. Pain! Lots of pain! That's what we're talking about here. They all cracked on the rack. Now some say Guy Fawkes didn't, but he did sign a confession. Good as a death warrant. He was taken from here to Westminster Palace Yard, and there, as a commoner guilty of treason, like Sir William Wallace, he was hanged, drawn, and quartered. Unlike...
We just left the Bloody Tower, and there have been some executions and deaths in there. The latest were in the 40s with Hitler's regime. Sir Walter Raleigh in the 1600s was also imprisoned here for 13 years. and he was sentenced to death for plotting against King James. Here's the view of the Tower Bridge from the top of the Bloody Tower. Another story from the Bloody Tower with two princes back in the 1400s. The heir to the throne, a 12-year-old prince, the son of King Edward IV, and his uncle, the Duke of Gloucester, sentenced him here, or sent him here. The next thing you know, he was never to be seen again, and the Duke of Gloucester was crowned King Richard III. We saw the workings of this inside the Bloody Tower, which was built in, as that says, 1225. This place is tremendously old. The entrance to the place that we came in was over here, and then we were back over here to Trader's Gate and St. Thomas's Tower, and in this direction the place just keeps going.
Originally, it was known as the Watergate. It was the entrance into the fortress from the river. Stores and provisions were delivered here, and it quickly became known as the Trader's Gate, like the tradesman's entrance. Now, in the 16th century, there was something of a human traffic, and it was largely one way. Many of these people were prisoners, a lot of them accused of treason, and the watermen slid the name to Traitors' Gate. We've had some fairly famous traitors come through here, but before I talk about those, I will point out that the Tower of London was not built as a prison. It was built as a palace and fortress. What is it? That's designed to keep people out. It quickly became used to keep people in. One of the most famous people we had come through here was Queen Anne Boleyn, Henry VIII's second wife. There was also Queen Catherine Howard, Henry VIII's fifth wife, a disturbing pattern emerging there. These are Tudors. I don't like talking about Tudors, but they make me, so I will talk about those two floozies later when I show you where they were killed and where they lie to this day.
So our beefeater was very, very good here at the Tower of London. One of the things he told us is that on their heads there, that's actually bear skin. The bears are killed in Canada and sent here. He also said a lot of these young men who are doing this are back from Iraq or served time in Iraq. Through the Bloody Tower and towards Trader Gate, and so ends our trip to the Tower of London. This is Tower Hill, just outside the Tower of London. It's amazing the weather we had. We went on a warden tour earlier, a yeoman warden tour earlier, and it had to get canceled because apparently they can't do it in the rain. And luckily we saw that same guy at the end because he was very funny and very informative. And it went from raining to beautiful and sunny again. So down the road from St. Paul's Cathedral, which again we're not able to do today, we're going to take a look at St. Bride's Church, which is another one of Christopher Wren's church from 1670, and they say that this is what the wedding cake was modeled after, this steeple. Downstairs in the basement of this church is a crypt, and it talks about how the Great Fire of 1666 burnt down the original medieval church, and then in 1940, during the Blitz that we learned about earlier today over at St. Paul's, it was destroyed again. And they were going through the cleanup. They discovered a medieval chapel in the basement here. Was your Zero Hero fat-free frozen yogurt from Itsu. is a chain. They have it all over the city. The first one we found by Leicester Square in Covent Garden. We've gone there a couple of times, and we've seen a couple today as we were, well, fighting our way on the bus and really just doing a lot of walking. This tavern's been around since the 1530s, and you have to know where it is. Thanks to Rick Steves, we found it. We've watched a lot of locals pack in here. It's 5 to 5 now. I think they want to drink away their worries from the tube strike today because the buses were crazy. It was rebuilt in 1667 after the fire, and we're going to head on in and have a drink. You have to go downstairs to get into this tiny little room. They say this is where Dickens threw some back. Mind your head. The more you keep walking through this pub and up these tiny little staircases, the bigger it gets. I would love to see this place in action with a ton of people. The bartender just said it gets pretty crowded at times. Well, one of the people who drank at that pub was Dr. Samuel Johnson, and he was in the 1700s, the writer, and this was his place here in Gough Square. And within the square, they've even set up a memorial to his cat Hodge.
Hodge, and it says that he was a very fine cat indeed, like Peaches and Miss Kitty.
Johnson did say that when a man is tired of London, he's tired of life. For there is in London all that life can afford. And I'll tell you something, I am not tired of London. I can live here, I can move here. My feet are exhausted of London, but me personally and Michelle, not tired of London at all. We love it. Right across the street is Twining's Tea. We're gonna head over there. And the George, maybe we'll stop in for a pint of ale.
We went to
So just had a great meal in Leicester Square, nice pasta restaurant. Michelle's on the phone with her mom, and wouldn't you know, Snogs in the background. Where do you think we're heading next? Right across the street, people are enjoying their pubs. We were able to get back on the tube, some disrupted service, so we had to go a connecting route. But tomorrow is our final day in London, and then we're heading off to Paris. So we're going to try and really pack it in tomorrow. Wednesday morning, and right down the street from our hotel by Gloucester Road Tube Station is Earl's Court Tube Station, and this is called Courtfield Gardens. My old stomping grounds from college. In fact, this is the building that I stayed in 15 years ago. Feeling a little old right now. Feels like yesterday. Can we afford one of these places?
I think so.
Wow, we can just move in.
Yeah, okay.
I spent many a morning and many a pound in this restaurant right over here. Eating this.
The next station is Piccadilly Circus. Change.
Sauce. Here in Trafalgar Square is St. Martin's in the Field. We saw it the other day, and we're down in the crypt downstairs, and you can see that there are people buried under here, but they've turned the crypt into a cafe. It's called Cafe in the Crypt. Eating on dead people. There's St. Martin's in the Field where we just came from. This is the National Gallery, one of the many free museums that London offers. It's an art museum on Trafalgar Square. And this is the opposite view of where we hung out in Trafalgar Square the other day, with Nelson's Column and Big Ben and Parliament in the way background. On a very typical, dreary, gray London day. Have to get the obligatory lion picture, and I'll tell you, it's a great view from up here. You see the West End, you see Big Ben, Parliament.
Big Ben,
How do you get down from here? St. Paul's Cathedral and the incredible dome. There's 257 steps to get up to the Whispering Gallery from the nave and the dome. So we did the Whispering Gallery, and you can actually hear from one side of the dome to the other side, about 32 meters, about 100 feet they said. So that was pretty cool. And then we climbed up about another 100 steps to this. This is the first level where we can see out. They don't like you taking photography or videography inside, so I got my wrist slapped at one point. So we're going to put on our audio tour guide and listen to what they have to tell us. But there's a good view of the city. Well, like I said before, it's certainly not one of the clearest days we've had, but here from one of the galleries overlooking the city, you could see St. Bride's, or the wedding cake church that we went into yesterday with the crypt, on Fleet Street down below. And we're not done climbing yet. Mind your head. How about minding the fact that we're climbing 535 steps to the top of this thing? Oh, mind your head. Was it worth the walk up here?
It's definitely worth the walk.
You got the eye in the fog. Wait, where's the eye? There it is. Probably should have come up here on one of the less cloudy days, but definitely worth it.
Not around a lot of rooftop gardens or anything, have they?
So the other day we walked over the Millennium Bridge over there, and then all the way along the South Bank, there's the Globe Theatre.
Yeah, that's it, they're walking over there.
Kept walking and walking and walking. Crossed, we didn't cross over the London Bridge, but instead crossed over the Tower Bridge over there. Now I see why my feet were hurting so bad. Got the Tower of London over there, and then you've got the city skyline, and finally found out what that building is over there. It's just an office building. It's called the Gherkin. Just a really cool design in the office building. This is, that's okay. This is back to the Whispering Gallery. Just had a little lunch of some pasties and took a bus down the Strand to Trafalgar Square. A little walk here down Whitehall back to the Horse Guards. And if we go through the arches over there, it'll take us back to St. James Park, and we haven't yet been to St. James Palace, so we'll head over there. Squirrel taking in lunch at the park. We just laid out on the grass and took an hour's nap amongst these unique looking ducks right under a tree, and it was wonderful. So this is St. James's Palace, and it is pronounced St. James's, and Clarence House is right on the other side of it, and that's where the Prince of Wales, Prince Charles, lives. And Green Park is right on the other side of this, and right now they have something called the Prince's Garden Party, which is a charity event for £15 that the Prince of Wales puts on. And that gate over there goes into the other park, St. James's Park, where we were resting before. Just had dinner at the same Italian restaurant as yesterday, right in Leicester Square. And before we get a snog, I was just going to check out a bar, and this one was pretty cool. I've been keeping my eye on this one. It's right across the street from Snog. All walks of life, just taking in a pint at the end of the day. What do you think of my new lid? Michelle just got me a new hat in Piccadilly Circus. So we're taking the long escalator down to the Piccadilly line, and we're going to head to Whole Foods and High Street, Kensington. Let me know before I get to the end, please, so I don't fall down. This guy's going nuts on his clarinet, huh? Hotel Sweet Hotel, right next to the tube station. So this is our place. Little bar club going on over here. Nice staircase. And we are going to do the elevator. Well, this is our last day of vacation. We have made it to Paris, and this is Notre Dame. This is the front door of Notre Dame. And the attention to detail on this building is incredible. We're not going to walk all the way to the top, because the line is crazy and we have some limited time today. But at the very top, you can see the gargoyles looking over the city. "700-year-old church," although as they say, it's only 700 years old. All you have talked about is coming to Paris and eating a baguette on the Seine. And that's what she's doing right now as we make our way to the Louvre. Well, we're not going in the Louvre, but this courtyard in the Louvre complex is massive. And the architecture is very, very cool just looking at the building. That's artwork in its own right. And through the archway, you end up in this humongo courtyard with the pyramid. You couldn't do this museum in a day if you wanted to. Huge, huh?
Huge, it's crazy.
Walking through the gardens, I'm not going to pretend to even try to pronounce it. Some young people with an impromptu game of football. And we are walking through these gardens down to the Place de Concorde, I believe it's called. And we get our first view of the Eiffel Tower. So the walk through the gardens from the Louvre continues. This is called Place de la Concorde, or I'm sure the French pronounce it a lot prettier than that. It has the obelisk, the needle in the middle there, and it affords us our first view of the Arc de Triomphe way in the back, which we're going to end up at later. This is the start of the Champs-Élysées, and this is just the beginning part. We're actually crossing over it right now, but you get a good look at the Arc de Triomphe. We're going to walk in between these two palaces, or former palaces, the Grand Palais and the Petit Palais. One is smaller than the other. I think this is the Petit, and that's the Grand. This is the Ponte Alexander II, speaking of grand. And that church, that domed church, is the Church of the Invalides, and they say Napoleon's tomb is located in there.
And look at the view of the Eiffel Tower.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we got our first real nice view of the Eiffel Tower as the rain starts sprinkling down on us a little bit as we overlook the scene. So in the interest of time, we're not going to see Napoleon's tomb. We walked past the church. How big can the tomb be anyway? So we came down a little street where the locals are doing their thing. And we're going to have lunch right over here in this little shop. So I just ordered that, which is basically a panini sandwich or a baguette sandwich. And we're getting it done over there. The best part is no English whatsoever, so Michelle tried her French with her book. I don't know that it worked, but we communicated enough that I got my lunch.
You got a drink and a brownie.
I got a drink, a brownie, and a lunch for $7.65, which is probably like 30 bucks. A couple more raindrops started to fall, and Michelle got herself a little pastry at a pastry shop. What exactly is this thing?
It's a tarte de pomme.
It's an apple pie?
Yes.
I tried it. I wasn't a fan. Finally found a food I didn't like. Thank God. I'll get a crepe later, though. So the rain went away again, so raincoat's off, and this is called the Champ de Mars, which is a nice little park right at the foot of the Eiffel Tower, which gives us our best view so far today. There are elevators that'll take you right to the top of the Eiffel Tower. And again, due to the time, we only had about 5 hours here, we decided not to do that. There are others who are just starting a very long journey by foot. We're getting ready to cross right under the tower now, over there to what's called the Trocadero. With the Invaldes Church all the way to the left, you can see how far we walked past there. This is the Trocadero, looking down on the opposite direction of the Eiffel Tower. We walked through there. A lot of tourists, and probably half as many of them are trying to sell little Eiffel Towers. And then that's the Champ de Mars down there, where we were earlier. And here's a final look at the tower from the Trocadero. So this is the famed Champs-Élysées. I probably mispronounced that as well. Taking a habit of that here in Paris. Some very high-end shopping, but a must-see here in Paris. There's the Arc de Triomphe, where we're going to go to next. Just a few moments ago, we hopped the metro here to the Arc de Triomphe from the Trocadero because it started to pour, just an unbelievable downpour. So here we are hanging out on the Champs-Élysées. Very expensive restaurants and stores. And right now we're going to head over behind us where I showed you to the Arc de Triomphe. So this is about as close as we're going to get to the Arc de Triomphe. Again, we only have 5 hours in Paris and we're really trying to do it all. On the very top, you can climb to the top, or you can get a view of the city. You can see some people up there right now. Napoleon had this thing built. It's the biggest victory arch. He had it built after one of his victories. Couple of things. One, it houses the tomb of the unknown soldier. You see the flame burning underneath the arch. And what also is pretty cool is the traffic circle is probably one of the craziest traffic circles in the world. 12 different avenues and streets feed into this, and nobody has the right of way. It's the gutsiest goes first. Look at that bus just cutting right across everybody. You gotta be crazy to go in there with a motorcycle.
It's gonna be crazy to go in there.
Where's he going?
He's gonna cut across all.
He's gonna cut across all these people?
Why even bother you?
Watch this.
People walking across the street, like, are you kidding me?
Yeah, you don't have to walk across it. There are underground crossing areas. You give them hell. Look at the direction these cars are going. Look at this. That takes a set of stones, huh? To the metro?
To the metro.
8 stops later on the metro, which is very, very easy to use, by the way. We found our way to, let's call it Anvers. I'm sure there's a better way to say it. And we're going to go up one of these streets. This is Montmartre. And the Sacré-Cœur, I'm sure I'm saying that wrong, is right up this street. You speak English? No English? Parlez English? No? So Michel just got one of these. He's taking corn on the cob and he's cooking it there in his shopping cart. And we're eating it because it's got to be delicious, right? Good. All right, he has no idea what I'm saying.
Kailangan na rin kumplesa ang Iraq eh, oh. Depend me.
Merci. There's a funiculare. Am I pronouncing that right? I'm not pronouncing anything right. Funicular instead of the stairs. So we'll decide. I might have to work this thing off by taking the stairs. What do you think, Shel?
Yeah, maybe.
Vorne, das hast du schon gar nicht. Guck mal da unten. So, jetzt willst du es noch mal probieren?
So back to London from Paris, and for the third night in a row, we ate right there at that table in Leicester Square at this wonderful little restaurant right across the street from the Leicester Square Tube. Just had our last snog and walked from Leicester Square back to Piccadilly Circus. Goodbye, Piccadilly Circus.
Goodbye, Piccadilly Circus.
Goodbye, I.
Goodbye, I.
Well, this was an awesome, awesome trip.
Time to say goodbye to Ben.
Time to say goodbye to London. It's 11 o'clock. We have to leave at 11 o'clock tomorrow morning to get to the airport. So I guess that's it.